Greetings! Welcome to EnergySpin Fireside Chat.
My name is Marko Kuokkanen and here is my colleague Marko Koski.
We are EnergySpin. We bring together startups, scale-ups, corporates to bring more sustainable business together.
Today we are going to discuss with Wärtsilä Corporate and also with Valaa Technologies, and the focus is on digital transformation.
Please, Ville, tell about yourself.
So, hello, my name is Ville Ilkkala from Valaa Technologies, and we are a Tampere-based deep tech startup founded in 2018, and we are focusing on semantic web technologies. And our core product is called Valos. It's an open source disruptive web architecture that kind of changes the whole idea or the fundamental unit of information on the web from a document to this dynamic event stream, and thus reduces complexity significantly and allows for many kinds of new integrations and faster development and so on. And what we do for the most part is that we work with corporates in energy and property technology and manufacturing and many other fields in where we can find these kind of systemic transformation challenges and pressure and see how our technology could play a part in overcoming those.
Good, thank you. Wärtsilä, Steffen Knodt.
Yes, hello, my name is Steffen Knodt. I'm Director of Digital Ventures for the Wärtsilä Group. Wärtsilä is a Finnish technology company active in the field of marine and energy. And my role there is to identify startups where we could complement our offering and services to our businesses and develop our services and capabilities more into the digital direction of Wärtsilä.
Excellent. Digital transformation is an important aspect, as I understood, from Wärtsilä's everyday life nowadays and renewal. How does it working with the startups do in that sense, if you think about that transition?
Yes, if you remember Wärtsilä is a more than 180 years old company, and we are of course quite good in developing large machinery to energy and marine, so for power plants or for large vessels. We have the need to open up our mind and to collaborate more with the ecosystem and also with partners in our value chain. And startup there has quite an important role. They offer us capabilities we might not have internally, and also bring a different perspective on how we work, how we engage in different areas. And there, of course, startups with digital background and working on software development are quite important for us.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question to the Valaa. So I'm aware that you have, let's say, several pilots or proof of concept discussions ongoing and with the different corporates. So how would you describe let's say that your journey? So what is the most difficult part and how would you describe, let's say, the process towards piloting?
So I think the biggest problem that we have in regards to our technology is that it's not really a vertical specific, just like Steffen mentioned, that the startups might bring capabilities that are not within Wärtsilä. So what is not easy to kind of concisely describe what is exactly the specific capability that we are doing, but we are more bringing this kind of a horizontal productivity increase and all sorts of benefits to the whole kind of data and software infrastructure. So trying to kind of bring this into a corporate and saying, like, let's see in 2 years how your entire infrastructure could look like if we do this, and then often the proof of concept is then very laborious process to try to identify the small thing that we could kind of validate through that. Okay, if we can do that, in this way, then that this could provide lots of value to for example the whole like product life cycle of manufacturing company, for example. So yeah, it's mostly the identification of the thing that we want to do that kind of reflects the unique capabilities or the unique way of thinking about data and thinking about software, and not kind of go into this kind of more traditional software development, because once you start to talk about very complicated, complex scenarios where there's multiple actors and divided responsibilities, and you want to create these decentralized systems and so on, then that there is where the kind of core values come into play that we have, and sometimes the corporate needs for software or digital new ideas are very specific to a certain corner of the product life cycle or process, and that's perhaps our biggest difficulty.
Thank you, Ville. I think it's a moment to ask from Wärtsilä is that, okay, Ville discuss or describe about, let's say, the difficulties or the challenges what they have. So how does the process look, let's say, from Wärtsilä view, that if you think about startups and how would you describe the most common challenges to work with the startups?
Yeah, if I can build on Ville, it's for us quite important that we also reach out and attract startups that are relevant for more than one vertical. So what you described is some in the digital area, you have technologies and capabilities that are not specific to energy or marine, but could add and contribute high value to many things in our service offering or in our products. And to identify then quite specific use cases who are fulfilling some business needs or customer demands, that's quite an important factor of our way of working with startups, that we on the one hand identify attractive cases where our businesses would like to engage with a startup, with a customer to solve a problem they have. On the other hand, also to keep in mind that if it works here, it has a much broader perspective and potential for our business as such or for the industry. And therefore my role within Wärtsilä and our way of working is that way, that I'm organized with my team as a venture client. So we are reaching out to our businesses to identify together with them use cases on their strategic needs and their customer demands, and then search for startups that could be on the right maturity level with their products and with their offering, that we could work on those use cases together. It could be on a scouting effort where we go into the usual tools. We are working with programs like EnergySpin, where we get engaged with startup that reach out to us. Also, we are partnering with other corporates and defining challenges or search fields. We are actively reaching out to startups. And then we are helping the startups along the way in our organization to work with the business units to scope their proof of concept, to simplify all administrative efforts, to make everybody's life easier, faster, and provide better results earlier in the process, that we can decide better that it's worthwhile to go ahead to the next steps, or that's something that we might have already in-house. That could also well be.
Thank you, Steffen.
I could add to that the kind of way how we came up a way how to kind of mitigate this difficulty that we have is this kind of a living lab process, that where we try to create very rapid experiments with corporates around some certain topic to kind of identify where the technology and the ideas could be applied the best, because it's always when you are working with something like a very disruptive technology that the corporate has never heard of, it's very hard for them to come up with the need for it before they kind of can understand that it actually exists. There's a lot of like ideation workshops and design sprints and stuff like that going around technologies like blockchain, just trying to figure out what to do with this. So that's something that we try to make happen on our technology as well.
I think we let Steffen now to comment on Ville's comment. So,
but that's exactly the let's say the gap we need to bridge also with startup. That of course the startups are sometimes much ahead of what actually is on the radar scheme in our ongoing business. So together with our colleagues in open innovation, with UX design and others, we are trying to of course inform our colleagues what is out there, what are the opportunities, and then supporting them to take those steps in those areas. And there are sometimes white spots where simply the innovation teams or some forward-thinking areas in the business believe that a technology has a potential. But then, of course, it takes time to bring the other parts of the organization who might have resources you need or budget that's required, or access to customers with use cases. That is always important in our business, that we get customer engagement and their data also in this context, that those are supporting this initiative and of course then helping the startups to get into that industry as well. But sometimes it's a white spot, and then takes a bit of time to convince that this is something worthwhile to go into.
Thank you, Steffen. Thank you, Ville. Yeah. So Ville, you work quite well in different industries. Energy tech is one, and property tech as well, and health tech as well. So different verticals have a little bit different issues as well. But what about common issues? You mentioned already some, for example, in earlier answer. But different industries, how you mitigate and how you actually change your, let's say, attitude toward different industries.
So there's like this one common thing that we try to hunt the industries that have this is the complexity that is result in the kind of complexity. So you have health tech. You don't have to look too far to see like how complex the systems in Finnish health tech sector, for example, have in recent days gone into, and when you have like, if you think about something like a consumer product, there's very few different sides to this. There's the company, and then there's a lots of homogeneous consumers using this product. But when you have something like Wärtsilä, who is making an engine to a cruise ship that is then the customer-facing product, and then you have a lots of different kind of things coming together. One of the most kind of funniest things, I talked with someone from Toby White, I think was from Wärtsilä, who mentioned that there is these signals coming from 100,000 different places in a ship, coming from starting with the oil pressure of the diesel generator to the disco ball. So the disco ball and the oil pressure is coming in the same data pipeline because Wärtsilä builds both. So these types of like complicated settings is where we see that our value promise has the most value, and medtech obviously with the data privacy and ownership and different legacy integrations and so on is one. Then property technology is one where we are facing a lot of interesting things, and actually just yesterday we got accepted to this Fortum Forward project with our property technology angle. So we've been working for around 9 months now around digital twins in property tech, and start to find this kind of niche area within the public buildings that have a lot of legacy automation systems but not so much money. So we have like a good opportunity there to bring lots of value with the technology.
Thank you, Ville. I think we could continue about the cross industries and cross businesses as well, to property tech partly as well. Wärtsilä, you have invested in a startup Solitaire Power, which is producing synthetic renewable fuel from capturing carbon dioxide in inside buildings, which is kind of already property tech as well. So anything, could you explain the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, if you see Wärtsilä, beginning of our digital transformation, our journey, we have set a new purpose of our company in place, and it is enabling sustainable societies by smart technology. So you have a strong sustainability focus, and also how we could bring smart technologies into the context of society. The two businesses we have, marine is pretty much focusing on smart marine, and energy is going on 100% renewables and making the way out of carbon fuels in the energy system. And Solitaire Power, of course, is quite a smart startup for us because they are taking carbon dioxide out of the air. They are supporting people in their buildings and trying to bring then these carbon dioxide together with electricity into new types of fuels. So this is pretty much linked to Power-to-X. So how you can transfer electricity into other forms of fuel or power that could then be used also maybe for our combustion engines as well, in a much more sustainable way and even better in a carbon neutral way of working. And therefore it's quite important for us that with Solitaire Power and with other startups in the energy field, we get a better understanding of the Power-to-X industry, and also identify for us potential growth areas where we then be right in already in the early stages together with the startup.
Yeah, I have an additional question. Thank you, Steffen, regarding your comments. So there is a lot of things happening all the time, and how are you able to cope with the different development plans, especially regarding the digital services? What is the driving force for you to pick up the right things?
The driving force, and even more in days like this, is that we have a customer need and growth potential for those initiatives. Very important for us in this digital area is the scalability of a solution, that we can scale it easily into existing installations we have and in a broader bandwidth of new installations in the industry, and by this also become faster. If you take, for example, a power plant or a vessel, it's highly project driven. We have quite a number of installations already around. With some of the customers, we have operational agreements and service agreement over many, many years. So the more we can bring into those contracts and existing solutions in the market, the more interesting it gets for us. And of course, the more insights we can get from data, from behavior, how we can improve energy efficiency and operational way of working. Ville mentioned digital twin, how we get inside how they operate that equipment. That is quite interesting. But it's getting more interesting the more we can get it into existing installations and also go to customers who have already business with us in other ways.
Thank you, Steffen. I think the same question to Ville. So how are you able to pick up the right cases where you focus?
It has to there has to be the growth potential, like that. Let's say that we don't want to go into the areas where, for example, in the context of the web, where we are operating, a lot of effort has already gone into. So consumer-facing applications on top of the web or e-commerce, for example, they're extremely competitive, and a lots of money and work has gone into refining the these systems. So what we want to do is to go into fields where the web or semantic web, for example, provides or could provide a lot of value, but which has these some key problems currently that the current technologies are unable to solve that we can, and then there is lots of growth potential because there's lots of undone things. So that's kind of like our strategy that property tech and energy and so on. You can identify fields within those sectors that are like blue ocean for our technology, but then there's some areas that are very clearly working quite well with the current set of technology. So e-commerce is the best example. It takes you approximately 5 minutes and a credit card to open an e-commerce shop that has everything that you can as a online retailer wish, and that works quite well. But then if you try to integrate some like legacy automation systems with some other legacy automation systems across the web, then there's no one-click solutions available.
In the current situation, I think the blue ocean sounds very good, but I think we have to wait for a blue ocean a bit still.
You just have to find it, like it's there, but it's not like apparent.
The red ocean.
Yeah, you need a new kind of a satellite to spot this ocean.
Good. Thank you. Few more questions about digital space. So basically, it's been Wärtsilä's focus for some time, and but how is it affecting everyday situation and life operations in Wärtsilä? Is it part of it all the time, or is it just going towards to it? If Steffen would like to answer.
Maybe if you see how we have been in our digital transformation, we started 2 years ago with a separate digital organization with a CDO in place, and with my team I was there as well, together with also open innovation and digital product development. And we have decided last summer that it's a good timing with our knowledge and competence gained there to go back to our businesses. So we have brought our colleagues and also my role closer to business, integrated it to them, and so that's pretty much now integrated in our business units in motors or in digital areas. We also have been taking care about that digital products or software products we have developed, and also where we have acquired some startups, that they get a bit more their own way of working in their own domain to simply be a bit more faster and agile than, let's say, the development of the motors. On the other hand, if you go to Vaasa, we have there the Smart Technology Hub being built over the last year, and there's a lot of activities going on there, how we can then also bring digital and more agile way of working in our normal way of doing business in all areas in our organization.
Thank you, Steffen. I think last question, or do you have anything more I would like to ask? I think about open source, we're kind of wondering how you both see that one, because that's a topic which is on the lips of many people, that open source question for, both for Steffen and Ville, how you see open source in actions of corporate and within, of course, Ville has been working on that one. So perhaps Steffen or Ville would like to go first.
Well, I can just start that we kind of chose the open source as our core, like the core product is an open source architecture, and we chose that because you can kind of pick one. You can either pick this ubiquitous horizontal technology that in our visions is going to kind of spread out and be a part of many things in the future, or then you can, and then your kind of business model is such that you make a huge market and then you capture a large enough portion of it. But then if you go with this proprietary angle, then you might be able to revolutionize a certain vertical very well and be kind of sitting on top of that and have the architecture as a proprietary one. But you don't get this kind of an ecosystem or network effect around multiple verticals. So when you have different industries collaborating together, you want to have this kind of a protocol level underlying open source way of, or standardized way of doing things, and then you create new business on top of that. And we have for the past year been kind of trying to focus our own business model as well towards this kind of a venture builder idea, where we ourselves as a company are both like an platform and infrastructure as a service company providing support and services, but then we want to, together with partners, try to build these proprietary vertical specific solutions on top of this architecture and then scale them together. So then this open source strategy has to mostly to do with the potential for this global ecosystem to emerge. Obviously, it hasn't yet emerged, but we wanna play our cards in a way that it can.
Yeah, and
Steffen.
Personally, I can support quite well what Ville is saying. It's also, if you take digital ventures and venture building in the context of data platforms and an open source activity, of course, it opens up you much more opportunities to cover more than one vertical, or in our case, marine and energy, and maybe others that come in the future, if the platform is made for this. And then that's a bit the balance you need to find, on the one hand, where you have a very specific domain knowledge and competence in your vertical, where you can set up something that is specifically for your segment the right choice, and where you have the own resources in there, and where you open up your platform or your development to make working together with partners or other verticals much more easier. And so the question how you deal with data and how much you can open up and how much standard you use in these data platforms is quite essential. And of course, if we have a platform in place that has at minimum the right interfaces to engage with startups, that it's easier for them to connect with their solutions into a system that is made for this, that you can partner with startups that are simply via API or open source can engage with your internal products, then it's much easier to engage with. And also the proof of concept we mentioned will be much easier, because it's simply not needed to get this specifically architecture in place or adjust what we have in place, because you're working on an open standard. And that is something where I would say that our industry or marine energy as such can also learn from other verticals, how they approach this, and also to figure out how big is our own market and what effort we can take simply to balance the scalability of the solution.
Okay, thank you, Steffen and Ville.